Payback is tomorrow night, Saturday, September the 2nd, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I believe. And just like the pay-per-view itself, premium live event, whatever you want to call it, these thoughts and predictions, I'm gonna try and make them short and sweet, much like the pay-per-view, much like I'm expecting the pay-per-view to be tomorrow night. So with that said, 6 matches on the card, 1 in-ring segment announced for Payback. So let's get right into it. And of course, the match that should main event, and the match that I'm hoping actually main events this premium live event, because it has yet to do so since it was introduced, is of course the Raw Women's, no, not the Raw Women's, no, definitely not that, the World's Heavyweight Championship, where Seth frickin' Rollins defends his championship, his current title reign, against the man Shinsuke Nakamura. One-on-one. They've been going back and forth ever since SummerSlam. After SummerSlam, Nakamura took it upon himself to attack Seth Rollins, make his intentions clear. He's targeting the World's Heavyweight Championship. He wants the world title. He wants the respect that comes with it. He wants respect put on his name, and he's been playing mind games with the Visionary, with the Revolutionary. He knows about his back injury. He's going to use that in full force, and I fully expect that to come into play and that to be a big story beat in terms of how the match plays out itself. But I do not see Shinsuke Nakamura walking out as World's Heavyweight Champion. I do not see him beating Seth freaking Rollins for the title. I just don't see it like an actual option at this point. Have a guy who was pretty much in the back burner, who was pretty much non-existent on WWE TV, at least in a prominent way over the past few months, to now make him World Heavyweight Champion. Which brings me to my next point. Seth frickin' Rollins will retain his title in the main event of Payback. He will still be World Heavyweight Champion momentarily, because Nakamura is going to come back. He's going to keep doing what he does best. He's going to attack Rollins from behind, post-match attack. The referee is going to have to keep him away from the champ, and he's going to keep attacking that injured back. He's going to leave the champion laying. And now comes Senior Money in the Bank, Damian Priest, the Punisher himself, the Punisher of Judgment Day himself, and he's finally going to cash in. And I'm saying that this is going to happen because at this moment in time, I don't see anyone on the current Monday Night Raw roster as an actual candidate to be the next opponent for Seth frickin' Rollins without having to utilize this avenue of the Money in the Bank briefcase. You don't believe me? Look at the fact that Nakamura just out of nowhere, he became number one contender. He got this championship match out of nowhere, just basically attacking Seth freaking Rollins from behind. There's really not much to it. And again, we're not going to backtrack with Seth freaking Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. It's not the moment. It's not the time. Definitely not a superstar spectacle or whatever. It's definitely not going to happen anytime soon at any of these B-level premium live events. It might happen at Survivor Series. It might happen at the Rumble. It might happen at WrestleMania. I don't know, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So in that case, you need Senior Money in the Bank, Damian Priest, to walk out as World Heavyweight Champion. And that does a bunch of things for WWE TV. That creates headlines. It makes this what you would consider a throwback pay-per-view event. Not throwback, a throwaway pay-per-view event into newsworthy, because we got a new World's Heavyweight Champion, Damian Priest. And that changes the dynamic on Monday Night Raw, and especially it changes the fact that Judgment Day will not walk out of Payback as the undisputed tag team champions. They will not beat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Owens and Sami Zayn will keep retaining those tag team titles, and much like Mommy said on Monday Night Raw, Judgment Day better have gold by the end of Payback. Enter Damian Priest cashing in his briefcase, which leaves Finn Balor on the outside looking in with JD McDonough, and the whole inner turmoil storyline between Judgment Day that can continue on Monday Night Raw, because that's about to get really interesting. If indeed this plan that I'm laying out for you guys right now, that I'm thinking will and should happen, if it plays out not this exact way, but if it plays out in a similar way, it'll be fantastic TV for weeks and months to come, especially during the fall when people tend to fall off of WWE TV. So with that said, that's what I'm predicting. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn retain their tag team titles. More tension between Balor and Priest builds up. Rollins beats Nakamura, gets beaten down post-match. Priest takes advantage of it. In the main event, he becomes World Heavyweight Champion. Will it happen? We'll just have to wait and see. So let's get into the rest of the matches. Steel cage match, Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. And I was really expecting this feud, this rivalry, this match to take place at SummerSlam and finally end, bookended at SummerSlam, biggest pay-per-view of the year. I don't know what happened. They decided against it, and now they've managed to stretch this out painfully all the way to Payback. Again, much like Judgment Day, or a variation of Judgment Day main eventing Raw for 3-4 weeks in a row, and tag team matches, multi-man matches, seeing Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus go back and forth on a weekly basis without actually having a match, you tend to lose interest. So with that said, steel cage match, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus. I'm gonna give the win to Becky Lynch because once again, I've said this in the past and I'll keep saying it. Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship is a must-see match. It should happen very, very soon just to bring relevancy to that title and to Rhea Ripley's title reign. So I'm predicting Becky Lynch wins the championship, and eventually down the line on Raw, Trish Stratus blames Zoe Starks for her loss. What happened? Again, these are just predictions. We'll just have to wait and see. And Rhea Ripley retains her title over Raquel Rodriguez. Again, Raquel as a babyface hasn't really been working. Never really worked as a single star, at least on the main roster. That'll keep coming into play. And at the very least, Rhea Ripley gets a title defense on a pay-per-view, prominent position. She gets to defend her title. She gets to be the Nightmare once again in the middle of the ring. And she gets to prove why she is the de facto leader of Judgment Day, because she always retains. She's the Nightmare. She dominates. And she will dominate Raquel Rodriguez at Payback. You can bet on that. We have the United States Championship match, Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory. You know my thoughts about this. I really don't want Rey Mysterio as United States Champion. I really don't see any point to it. But I also don't see any point in putting the title back on Austin Theory. We did this last year when I believe he dropped it to either Rollins or Lashley, and then he won it back a few months later. And that led to a title reign that ended at the hands of Rey Mysterio. So, again, no backtracking. We can't go back to that. We have to build up to Mysterio versus Santos Escobar. LWO going at it for the U.S. title. So, by default, Rey Mysterio retains the championship. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Like I said, he doesn't need the title. He doesn't need to be in his position. He doesn't need the prominence. WWE booking. Go figure. And then we have the singles match. L.A. Knight versus The Miz. 1-on-1. And The Miz has done an extraordinary job of trying to expose L.A. Knight's character's flaws. We've talked about this on this channel as well. L.A. Knight needs to get past that, but he only gets past that by having more time on the microphone. And we might see that tonight on SmackDown. He might have a rebuttal. He should have a rebuttal, a response to the Miz's impersonation. Entertaining as hell. Fantastic. Caught me off guard. Entertaining, funny. Everything you want out of WWE TV. Everything you want out of pro wrestling TV. But LA Knight needs to really step up his game in terms of the mic. Because he can't just be a catchphrase machine. And he needs to get a little bit more comfortable, like I said, being a babyface smack talker. And there's a fine line, there's a really delicate balance he needs to find, much like Stone Cold and The Rock did during the Attitude Era. This is a different era, but LA Knight needs to find that balance. As far as the match goes, I have no doubt LA Knight's going to get the win, simply because it just makes sense. And simply because if he loses to The Miz, sure, it'll continue the feud, it'll continue the rivalry, but The Miz beats you and he exposes you on the mic for actual real flaws, actual real concerns. That's really troubling for a character like LA Knight, who needs at least some foundation, some actual stable floor to stand on. So I'm just going to give the win to LA Knight by default. With WWE, you never know. They might have the Miz win just to have the feud continue. But we'll just have, again, I keep saying this, but again, these are predictions, so we'll just have to wait and see. And again, these predictions aren't set in stone. I don't mind them going in different directions as long as they give me something entertaining, as long as they put great TV on. And I feel like WWE, AEW, all these companies do that more times than not. And it's not really good to really be focused and be locked on your predictions, on your thoughts, on how on your fantasy booking, because it will not happen the way you want it. So, just thought in mind. And finally, we have the in-ring segment where the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, will be on the Grayson Waller effect. And it's safe to say that WWE is pretty high on Grayson Waller. I mean, his first match on the main roster, Madison Square Garden, against Edge, put on a hell of an effort, and then he got respect from the Rated R superstar in the middle of that ring. He's been calling out The Rock in backstage segments, social media, videos, whatnot. So, if they're allowing him to do this, then they have big things planned for him. And Grayson Waller is a fantastic talent. There's no doubt about that. He's got a really promising future in WWE, and I feel like they just keep setting him up for greatness, keep giving him segments and opponents and stars to butt heads with and see how he handles himself in this at Payback, this segment, Grayson Waller effect, with arguably the top babyface in the company, Cody Rhodes. It'll be no different. So, from this segment, I'm just expecting that they set up a match, a feud, for a later date. Not for Superstar Spectacle, but it'll continue for after Raw, and then I forget what the October pay-per-view is. So, yeah. But again, that's what you want. That's what you need for these kinds of superstars. You need to advance these storylines, and most importantly, for the time being, you need to keep Cody Rhodes away from the main event. You need to keep Cody Rhodes away from the World Heavyweight Championship, because it's not the right time to have him finish his story at this moment in time. Yeah. So with that said, those are my predictions for Payback tomorrow night. Of course, the card may change. Things may change. We still have SmackDown tonight. That might alter the card a little bit. So we'll just have to wait and see what goes on tonight on SmackDown, what goes on Payback. On Monday, we'll have all the fallout from this premium live event. We'll see if some of my predictions came through. We'll see if some of your predictions and thoughts come true. So with that said, leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on Payback in the comment section below. In the meantime, tune in later on tonight to Fox for another episode of SmackDown. My name is Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk, and I'll see you next time.